Mayelle's attention to herself. Closing her eyes, she allowed a familiar daydream to surface. So, you're really going to be my ma? The happiness exploding through Libby's middle erupted in a joyous giggle. Mayelle smoothed Libby's tangled hair from her face. Why, of course. I've always wanted a daughter, and I can't imagine a better one than you, Libby. Libby threw herself into Mayelle's arms. Oh, I'm so happy you're adopting me. Thank you. No, let me thank you, dear one. Mayelle's cheek rested on the top of Libby's head, the contact warm and comforting. You've made me the happiest mother on earth. The sound of a clearing throat chased the fanciful musing away. Libby looked up to find both Mayelle and Jackson grinning at her. Jackson said, "My apologies, Libby." He tucked his arm around Mayelle's waist. "Sometimes I get lost in my beautiful wife's beguiling eyes and forget anyone else exists." Mayelle shook her head, her tumbling auburn locks swaying with the motion. "Goodness, the things you say." But the tender look she gave Jackson contradicted her gentle reproach. Libby clamped her lips tight as her anger swelled. Why hadn't Mayelle and Jackson adopted her? When Libby was 10, she had asked Mayelle to be her mother, and Mayelle had lovingly explained she wanted Libby to have the privilege of both a mother and a father. But then Jackson had returned, and he and Mayelle had married, and even then they hadn't adopted Libby. Now it was too late. No one had wanted Libby at the age of 10. Why would anyone, even Mayelle, who professed to love her dearly, adopt an 18-year-old? She'd never have the joy of calling Mayelle Ma, the way her heart longed to. Mayelle shifted to face Libby. "Should we go find the boys? I imagine Bennett is hungry by now." Jackson held his hand toward the door, and Libby scurried past him. As she careened out the door, she nearly collided with two girls in the hallway. Isabel Rowley's lessons on etiquette rose in her memory, and she automatically excused herself. The pair looked Libby up and down before they exchanged a quick, haughty look. The taller of the two said, "You need to slow down." "Or, at the very least, look before you leave your room," the second one added. Libby folded her arms over her chest. "I said, excuse me, and it isn't as if I tried to run you down, it was just bad timing." The taller one opened her mouth, but before she could say anything, Mayelle and Jackson stepped into the hallway. The girl snapped her mouth closed, took her companion by the elbow, and hustled toward the stairs. Girls. She'd never gotten along well with other girls. They were too snooty or too prissy or too giggly. The condescending, scolding tones used by the girls in the hallway had sounded too much like the orphanage's founder. How often had Mrs. Rowley berated Libby for escaping into a daydream, or for unladylike tree climbing or frog catching? Libby had grown to love Mrs. Rowley, but she'd never felt completely accepted by her. Girls were no fun. Except Mayelle. Libby clasped her hands beneath her chin and gave Mayelle her best pleading look. "Can't I go back to Shays Ford with you and Jackson?" Mayelle's brow crunched in confusion. "Why would you want to do that? You were so excited about attending the university." "That was before I met Snoot 1 and Snoot 2, Libby thought. Libby caught Mayelle's arm. "If I'm too old to stay at the orphan school, I could get a job at the newspaper or even work for you as your assistant." She knew how to operate Mayelle's camera. She'd spent so much time in Mayelle's photography studio, it had become as much a home to her as her room in the orphanage dormitory. "Libby, you know you wouldn't be happy working in my studio." Mayelle spoke in a kind yet no-nonsense tone. "You've always wanted..."